And today we're going to discuss Al-Quds Day, a celebration of hate. So for all who are wondering what Al-Quds Day is and what it actually represents, we'll have a live panel discussion. We'll introduce our guests momentarily. Our host is Meir Weinstein, who's presently at the Kotel in Israel. He's a founder of IsraelNow.ca. He's been fighting anti-Semitism, identifying Nazi war criminals, fighting left-wing anti-Semitism and BDS for decades. He'll be the host of today's show. We also have a consortium of guests, including Akiva Ariel. Akiva is the head of public relations for Vayadenu, Returning to the Temple Mount. We also have Baruch Ben Yosef, an attorney in Israel, who's the chairman of the movement to restore the temple and a member of Otzama Yehudit, a political party. Party that's a little too liberal for me. Then we have Levi Kazan, who's the director of English at the yeshiva, which was founded by Rabbi Kahane of blessed memory back in 1987. Also joining us this afternoon in America and this evening in Israel is Yehuda Glick, who's the president of Shalom Jerusalem Foundation and the chairman of the Temple Mount Heritage Foundation. And briefly discuss from the perspective of an American college professor, Al-Quds on campus. And Thane has written several books, the most recent of which I have on my shelf here, signed first edition, with my other signed first editions. He's also director of the Forum on Life, Culture and Society at Touro University, which is the largest privately owned Jewish university system in America. So what is Al-Quds Day? Back in 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini declared the last Friday of Ramadan, that peaceful holiday, as Quds Day. So Khomeiniak decided that he's going to encourage Muslims worldwide to rebel against Israel in hopes and dreams of eliminating the Jews. He seems nice. I've been notifying the Muslims of the danger possessed by the usurper Israel, and that if every Muslim, 1.8 billion that is, throws a bucket of water on Israel, Israel would be washed away. And that's his goal, and that's what Al-Quds Day represents around the world. Under the cruel reign of Khomeiniak, on November 4th, 1979, he held hostage for 44 days.
So it was November 4th, 1979, when the Islamic Republic of Iran stripped 52 Americans, their freedom,
US hostage,
their dignity, and their pride.
52 hostages were held for 444 days in Iran.
They brought Iranian women to the front door, then used them as shields as they broke through the American embassy. So I will never forget the human rights and what they did to the Iranian women then, and obviously what still goes on to this day.
So some of the representations of festivities and parties held by Al-Quds Day internationally, depicted in some photographs here. We'll have some videos of these events during the program tonight. Peace will come when the Arabs will love their children more than they hate us, said Golden My Arab. A young Rabbi Kahani. The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing. And here at IsraelNow.ca, we don't look on and do nothing. In fact, Meir picked himself up and went to Israel when he heard of the turmoil on the Temple Mount. Yesterday's Shabbat, by the way, was the 22nd of Nisan, which in 1713 BCE was the very first Brit Milah of Isaac. Also on this date, back in 1273 is when the walls came tumbling down.
Praise the Lord, the walls came tumbling down. So glad the walls came tumbling down.
So without any further ado, we're going to introduce Meir, who's going to take it from here on in, and together we can fight anti-Semitism at IsraelNow.ca. Please find us, share us, join us. And here's Meir, who, as every week, will give a brief rundown of parts of the week. Meir, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. I'm at the Kotel. This is the first for our show to broadcast right from the Kotel. And it's a pleasure. It's an honor to be here. It's a moving experience. As you know, the Kotel is the retaining wall of the temple. And our aspirations as Jews is always for the rebuilding of the third temple. That's our focus. And we have on with us tonight experts that are going to be speaking about the movement of Jews going back, at least ascending the Temple Mount to visit, to work for prayer to be restored on the Temple Mount for Jews. And I believe that this is very central to the whole idea of Al Quds Day. Al Quds Day seeks to negate the Jewish attachment and claim the Har Bayit. We're going to be talking about that tonight. We just finished Passover, Pesach, and we are commanded to tell the story of the Exodus from Egypt during the Seders and during the whole period of time of Passover. We're supposed to be discussing that and learning that. Passover is about the exodus of the Jewish people from Egypt. Moses first came to Pharaoh with a request and a demand. Let my people go so they may go into the wilderness and serve God. Today, the challenge for the Jewish people is to serve God, to serve our God. And the central place for the Jewish people, the most holy location for the Jewish people, is the Temple Mount. Just last week, on the Temple Mount, as we were celebrating Passover, Pesach, last week, the BDS Hamas supporters gathered on Har Bayit on the Temple Mount. They held Hamas flags and they chanted, "Death to Jews. Kaibar, Kaibar, Ye Yehud. Jews, remember Kaibar. The armies of Muhammad are coming for you." Kaibar is an area during the period of time of Muhammad where the Jewish people were wiped out, were massacred. That's what they want us to remember. That's what they're saying on our holiest site. Currently, unfortunately, the coalition government of Israel just made a statement last night that they're saying they don't want Jews going up to visit the Temple Mount, even under the terms of agreement, even under the terms of agreement of the status quo. Jews have the legal right under Israeli law, if I should quote that, to ascend and walk on the Temple Mount. So what's going on is that Hamas is being rewarded and they're allowed to call for death to Jews and wave Hamas flags. Unfortunately, the foreign minister of Israel, Yair Lapid, who I liked him when he was a journalist, and he says some very good things, but his recent statements, he condemned Jews who were marching in Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, with Israeli flags, and he compared them to the Hamas supporters on the Temple Mount, waving Hamas flags and calling for the murder of Jews. That's an outrage. The diaspora minister made similar comments. We need to work for a change in Israel. We need to have serious conversations amongst the Jewish people, because it seems to be there is a lack of direction about what is a Jewish state. And we need to have these conversations, and they're essential. And we're going to be discussing that tonight. But what's going on right now throughout the entire world is that BDS Hamas support groups throughout the world in every capital is having all Quds Day events where they are also chanting, calling for the murder of Jews. We have to dispel this. We have to take our pin and put it in that hot air balloon and poke out that air and nullify it and restore Jewish pride. We have a short video I'd like to share with everyone to show of these Hamas supporters who are gathered on our Temple Mount calling for the murder of Jews. It's very short. If our doctor in the studio could show that video.
I got it. It's coming on. Here's it. And I'd like to also thank all the groups who are participating with us. So what they're chanting, as Merit said, is, "O Jews, remember Kaibar. The armies of Muhammad are coming for you." And they're chanting that where our temple had been and should be again. Just what is Kaibar? So the Battle of Kaibar was fought in 628 CE, and this is when the early Muslims, led by Muhammad, marched on Kaibar and massacred many of the indigenous Jews who had lived there since time immemorial. In addition, Muhammad took the Jewish Safiya as a war bride, and as a war bride, not the war bride, because he had 9 other wives already. So who was she? She was born in Medina, and in the mass killing of around 1,000 Jews, she watched her brother, her husband, and her father beheaded. She witnessed the young males beheaded and the women taken as slaves. This is what the warlord Muhammad did to the Jews who were there back then, and that's what today's Palestinians are chanting on the Temple Mount. I have a lot more to say, but I won't. I'm going to give it back to you, Mayor.
Okay, well, we have a lot to discuss tonight, and we have very important people with us who are joining us. So I'd like to call on Thane Rosenbaum, who's a professor in the United States, very accomplished professor, who I understand is writing a piece about Al-Quds Day. With all due, let's have Thane.
I'll find him. Keep talking. I'll give him a call.
Okay, so maybe, you know what, we could bring him on after. We have others that are with us right now.
As soon as he's ready. Oh, there he's ready, Mayor.
Oh, is he ready? Okay.
Well, let me make a quick comment just for you.
Yes.
So Thane's coming to us from New York, and just a little introduction to the Thane Rosenbaum show is, while the whole world is going insane, in Thane we trust. So Thane,
Right.
take it away.
Oh boy.
Very, very witty, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello to the both of you, Mayor, Gary. So we're talking about Al-Quds Day, the big celebration this week. You know, I have an essay. You were right, Mayor. I'm coming out this week, my bi-monthly essay for the Jewish Journal of Los Angeles. And one of the things I say there is, imagine if the people from Luxembourg, just as an example, said that after their, whatever their national religion might be, that at the end of their holiest day or month, when they're finished with their religious obligations, the very first thing they do is set aside a day to hate the French people. Not just to hate the French people, but to incite violence against the French people. Imagine what the world would say about the Luxembourgians or any country, the Canadians and the United States, would say, no, at the end of our religion, this is what we do. When we're finished, we're fully finished, depleted actually after fasting under this holy scripture of our religion. The very first thing that we can think of is killing people. That's who we are. Now, I dare say that if you were to say that about people from Luxembourg, you would call them barbarians. You would say, what else can you describe such a people? They're barbarians. And I'm sorry, that is what one would have to say about Muslims and Arabs that think that the end of Ramadan, the very moment it ends, the first thing we should do is incite violence against Jews, to burn Israeli flags, to scream death to Jews, death to Israel, death to America, right? Death to America comes up also. And so I just think that's something to contemplate when people think of the intentions of the Arab and Muslim world. If you listen to what they say, if you don't fixate on the politically correct thing to say, oh, you know, all people are different and you respect their differences. No. You don't respect the differences of mass murderers. You don't. You don't say this is a question of moral relativism. You know, we do it certain ways and the Arabs do it. No. The Arab way of murderously dealing with Jews, and only that's the only thing they can think of. They can't think of anything else at the end of the holiday. And I just think that that's something to pause and contemplate, that these celebrations, and they are celebrations, are ostensibly to unite Palestinians with Jerusalem, right? Because Al-Quds Day is really a celebration of Jerusalem Day for the ostensible purpose of reuniting it with Palestinians. Yeah, but then why is there all this talk about killing Jews? In my essay that's coming up, I quote the last two Iranian presidents about what they said on those days. And the last two presidents, I quote them, say things like, we don't want Israel to ever feel safe on that land. and we want to eliminate all Jews and Americans from the Middle East. What does that have to do with Palestinians? What does it have to do with Jerusalem? Why, if you listen to what they say, instead of this sort of purported reason for the holiday, this is not some celebration of Jerusalem. And let me just add one thing about Jerusalem with respect to the Arab consciousness. It's something that I've said in speeches around the world, and people look at me like, he can't be right. There's no way he's right. And you know what? I'm right. Here's just a little, factoid. It's too ridiculous. And only if you were politically correct, you'd say, don't say that. Don't say that. How many times is the word Jerusalem mentioned in the Old Testament? The number is actually 670 times. So that when it came to the Jewish Holy Scripture, Jerusalem is mentioned 670 times. Now, for all the talk about the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Temple Mount and the Rock of the Dome as being the significant holy sites of Islam, how many times is Jerusalem mentioned in the Quran? Not once. Not once. If Jerusalem is so vital to the Jewish mind, to the Muslim Islamic mindset, so essential to its history, how is it possible that Jerusalem was left out of their holy text? Totally out. Doesn't exist. You might as well mention the Green Bay Packers. You mention anything. It's not in the Quran. So, but before we start creating holidays, reuniting this city with the legitimate heirs to the city, the Palestinians, one would have to ask yourself, I know, but it doesn't, the city doesn't appear in the Quran at all. And in the Old Testament, which is accepted by the Christianity through its New Testament, in which Jerusalem is also mentioned in connection with the Jews, you're seeing United Nations agencies like UNESCO twisting themselves in knots, purporting to claim that there is no Jewish connection to the ancestral home of Israel. There's nothing. There's no connection. Whereas the Old Testament only speaks of biblical cities that exist in Israel, and both Jews and Christians recognize the connection to the patriarchs of Judaism and Jerusalem. And yet we're told that all Jews must be killed because they are trying to prey on the land that is above King Solomon's second temple. That we should throw rocks at them and we should throw fire bombs at them because Jews they cannot soil this land where the temple once existed, when in fact your mosque is not mentioned at all. Yes, Mecca is mentioned in the Quran, of course, and Medina is mentioned, but not Jerusalem. So it's just a little, piece, an anecdote that's worth considering. What are those 2 points to revisit in a professorial way? Well, the first point is, what kind of a people celebrate the end of their fasting and holiday by hating the other people and wishing nothing but their death? What would you say about them? And why is it that this is something that is acceptable under the thinking of moral relativism? Oh, people are all very different. You like to do this, they like to kill you, and you need to respect that they like to kill you because you wouldn't want to offend them. You shouldn't offend them. It is their religion, and that's how they like to celebrate the end of their fast. And the second question, to demonstrate this sort of the absurdity of the logic of Al-Quds, is to say it's purportedly, ostensibly about reuniting Arabs with this holy city, and it doesn't appear in the Quran. And then the last point I would make about this goes to the idea of, again, reuniting the Palestinians, reuniting Palestinians with the West Bank and Jerusalem. No Arab or Muslim or Persian country said a word about restoring the territories to Palestinians when Jordan occupied Jerusalem and the West Bank, and when Egypt occupied Gaza. No one said a word. Not one Arab country said, we need to strip that land.
Did you say that again?
To strip that land away from the Jordanians and give it to the Palestinians. Why did this become an issue only when the Israelis reclaimed the land? Why only in 1967 did Arab and Persian nations, Muslim nations, decide that the world would never see peace unless there was the creation of an Arab state and the elimination of the Jewish one? Because if in fact the Arab world cared enough about the Palestinians, they would have said to the Jordanians, hey, you are the usurpers, you're colonial settlers of the land that's rightfully owned by Palestinians. Not a word was said during that time. No one uttered a phrase to give back the land to Palestinians. And so one wonders, or let's make room within our 22 Arab nations and make room and invite the Palestinians to live and jointly live in peace here in another Arab country. You have 22 failed Arab states by any metric: human rights, constitutional democracy, freedom of speech, independent judiciary, the rights of women, the rights of homosexuals. 22 failed states. One successful democracy in the Middle East happens to be a Jewish one, and it happens to be the smallest of those 22 states. That's the state that needs to be eliminated? That's the only one. That's the human rights violator, the one where women can go to rock concerts and not worry about what they're wearing, and homosexuals can attend rock concerts and hold hands. One country in any one of those others where this can happen. And yet somehow Israel is demonized as both illegitimate and a country that should not exist, and a country that violates human rights.
Well, Thane, as always, we appreciate having you here, having you with us. Mayor, if you have any closing comments with Thane before we start introducing our other many guests, take it away, Mayor and Thane.
Hey, Gary, I'm not
And what
hearing
their
you.
bottom line as well. So that was excellent. So thank you very much.
Anytime for you both. It's an important program you host.
Well, thank you very much. We're trying hard. I'd like to say is that the purposes of the show, of the program, is to change the direction. There's a lot of just nice presenting Israel as an Israeli state rather than going forward with the definition of a Jewish state. And we should feel very comfortable to explain what a Jewish state is and what our values are, because we don't have any similarities with Islamic culture that celebrates Al-Quds Day and all the hates with it. We should be very proud of our Torah. That's one of the purposes of the show. But thank you, Thane.
Anytime,
very much.
Thank you.
Can we bring on Levi Chazan? Is he with us here, or?
Sure, everybody's with us. I'm going to bring them on. I'll bring them on one at a time so you can introduce them as they show. So let's see.
There's Levi.
Hi.
Levi Hazan, how are you? Thank you
Hi,
for
Mayor.
being
How
with
you
us.
doing? Good to see you. It's My pleasure.
Thank God. Thank God. Yeshiva and Mechon Meir.
Yes, it has a lot of water under the bridge.
Maybe you could bring us up to. Yeah, maybe you could bring us up to date with your words about Har Bayit and what the challenges are, because I think a lot of people want to know what's going on.
Okay. First of all, I think the program is very important, but I think it's important also to state at the first that it's not just one particular day that the Arabs talk out about the Temple Mount and how it really belongs to them,
Right.
and how they want to slaughter Jews. In reality, this takes place every single day in the
Right.
Holy Land and probably throughout the entire world. It's very clear what their agenda is. They state it very clearly. They don't play games, and it's very important that we understand the roots of where all of this is really coming from. The Bible states very clearly that there are 3 places in the land of Israel that were purchased by our forefathers. Avram Avinu, Abraham, purchased Hebron when he needed a burial spot for his wife. Yaakov purchased the place in Shechem. And of course, King David purchased the Temple Mount. And it's interesting that in all of these 3 places, time and time again, the Muslims dispute the claims of what's written in the Bible, of what's written in the text, and fight us nail and teeth in all of these places, wherever it is. So at the utmost, we have to understand where the roots are coming from. We have to understand that the Arab will never allow the Jews to rule any place, and this is something that Muslim conquest has done throughout the ages, whether it was in Europe, in Spain, or other places. They have the philosophy of conquering, kill and conquer, and so too is also here in the Middle East when they ruled this area for almost 1,300 years until the British came, and then of course the Jews followed them, and they could never come to grips that Jews rule over these particular places, especially on the Temple Mount. Unfortunately, the leaders of the government of the Jewish people fall to the pressures of the world, and they're afraid of world opinion and what their nations are going to say. We have this imaginary image of, God forbid, that they'll come down and be mad at us. And so we try to appease them time and time again. For someone who's been to the Temple Mount for roughly 35 years, I could really say things have gotten better. It's a very, very slow pace. I remember back in the days in the late 80s and 90s, they would only allow 2 Jews to go up to the Temple Mount, and there'd be police and there'd be the watch from the Muslim committee following you. And God forbid that you open up your mouth. Today, it's a lot easier, it's a lot better, but still, there's still a long way to go, and the people have to awaken. The Jewish people in Israel have to awaken to that the temple, when we proclaimed in '67, the temple isn't in our hands. The temple is obviously not in our hands. When the temple is closed to Jewish prayers, then obviously the temple is not in our hands. And it's really, it's a case of the bully who gets his way. The Arabs go up to the Temple Mount knowing that with throwing rocks and Molotov cocktails at the Jewish people, they will eventually get the government on their side to close the mount for Jewish visitors up there. And that's really absurd. It's absurd. The way the whole system, time and time again, this works out every single year when it comes to this time of year when the Arabs are celebrating their holiday. Every time they try to close down the presence of Jewish people on the Temple Mount. And as the poet said, you control the mount, you control the country. And that is something that really people have to understand. The focus of the temple is not just a place of worship. Obviously, it's the most important place in Judaism, but it's a control of the way the temple goes the entire country goes. You don't control the temple. You don't control Lod. You don't control Ramla. You don't control the other mixed cities in Haifa. The Arabs taste this. They feel it. They smell it. And they see that when you, so to speak, want to give into them and you want to, so to speak, you're there, you're on their side, you're letting them have this, and you're letting them this, they see that as a sign of weakness against the Jewish people. And so they grow bolder and bolder every single time. And that's why we have such a situation that we have today, where here we are for the next, at least the next 2 weeks, the Temple Mount is closed to Jewish visitors. And that's really absurd. It's absurd in Israel. In the Jewish homeland, there is a place where Jews are not allowed to go. Not only that, even when we are allowed to go up there, God forbid you should open your mouth in prayer. I think it's the only place in the entire world that a Jew can't pray. I mean, if this was happening in some other place in the world, there'd be commotion. You'd be calling your senator, and you'd be calling the president. How could this possibly be that a person doesn't have freedom of religion? And here it is in the Jewish state. In the Jewish state, a Jew who goes up to the Temple Mount cannot pray at all. That's really absurd, and it must change. This is something that we have to do, and it's in our hands. It's in our hands to change it. The more people become aware about this situation, the more people who know about it, the stronger we get as a movement. The more people who want to go up to the Temple Mount, it becomes a political reality. And that's the job we have to do about the Temple Mount and the Jewish plight over there, and our need to go up there and to pray, just like everyone else is entitled to do that. The Jews, also, especially in its own homeland, in its own capital, should be able to do that.
Maybe I have a question for you. Oh, we got a little video there. 1 second.
Just a demonstration of how the Palestinians respect the Temple Mount and respect their mosque and respect the land. They even cover themselves for defense in case if somebody should retaliate.
So, Levi, I have a question for you. Maybe you could help us with this. So there are some, the Rabbanut, for instance, they issued a statement saying Jews should not go up on Har Bayit. I want to know, I mean, it's one thing they issued that statement, but what I want to know, have they ever issued a statement denouncing the Hamas flags on Har Bayit and the incitement to murder Jews on Har Bayit, on our holiest place? Have they ever issued a forceful statement about that?
That's a very, very important point which you raised, Mayor. And first of all, they haven't. I've never heard of any statement that they've come out denouncing any of the Arabs' incitement and the rock throwing and the Molotov cocktails that they throw up there. Never have they come out. They only come out to say that it's not permissible for Jews to go up there. And I think that's an important point to talk about, just for a moment anyway. The whole idea over here, it's really what's interesting over here is that they've never, in spite of all their declaration that they've come out and said Jews cannot go up to the Temple Mount, they've never given a reason why it is forbidden for Jews to go up. They've never opened the textbook and said, oh, you know why you can't go up? A, B, C. So that's something that you could deal with. Okay, the Rabbanut says we can't go up to the Temple Mount because this reason and this reason. They don't say that. You know why? Because there is no reason. It's all politics. It's political. Right. That's what really causes the pain over here. Back in the day when Turkey ruled this land, they would never allow a non-Muslim to go up to the Temple Mount. The Jews are just continuing that platform that the Muslims started back in the day. There is no halacha, legal Jewish law, any reason why a Jew cannot go up to the permitted places on the Temple Mount. There is no reason whatsoever. And no rabbi could come and claim that there is. And if they, I wish they would. I wish they would claim and say, oh, you're not allowed to go up to the Temple Mount because of this and this reason. But they can't. So they just in general terms, say it's forbidden to go up there. And that's really something that's really very upsetting, because we have to be united. The Jews have to be united. We don't need people against other people against other people. We're so few in numbers anyway, and we really have to have a united front when you come and you want to go and make progress over here. That's a wonderful point that you brought out, Mayor, and I'm glad you allowed me to talk about it, because it's so important to realize that there is no halacha reason why Jews cannot go up to the Temple Mount.
And that's something that should be in the forefront of some of these discussions to have with fellow Jews about Har Bayit, because many people are just throwing the issue to the side. And again, I think it comes down to, well, certainly with the government and with others, it comes down to the definition Israel, an Israeli state or a Jewish state. If it's an Israeli open, binational, who is redefine what it means to be Jewish, then anything on the anything out there, pull it out of the sky, a definition. But if it's a Jewish state, there is a clear definition, and with that clear definition, we know what it is, and that's something we learn. We learn. Every yeshiva learns the Torah. Every synagogue teaches the Torah. Every rabbi should be bound by the Torah, and that's something where we should be able to go forward. And that's something that the government of Israel should be bound to if it wants to call itself a Jewish state.
That's true. That's beautifully said. That's correct. And I would say that that's one of the things that we do in our yeshiva from Rabbi Kahana's yeshiva is that every month the entire yeshiva staff, including the Rosh Yeshiva, goes up to the Temple Mount every Rosh Chodesh. And it's important as a yeshiva, and it's important to publicize it as much as possible in order to get the word out, so to speak, that yes, we are going back up to the Temple Mount. We are claiming once again that just like they said, the Temple Mount is in our hands. It's our battle now to do that and to say, yes, we have to show that the Temple Mount really is in our hands.
So apparently also there's different times that Jews are wide open for us. Different times of the day when Jews are permitted under the laws here to go up. And there's been an increase of Jews going up. I want to know if you could tell the people who are watching what kind of progress there has been in terms of numbers, and also if you could tell us what you would think would be going forward in the future if the government of Israel said Jews are allowed to go up there 24 hours a day, any day. What would happen?
I think the Messiah would be here. I think the Messiah would be here. First of all, I could tell you a little bit about the numbers during the Passover holiday, where I was, thank God, one of the close to 5,000 Jews who did go up. Now, the Jews are in the same category as any other visitors who go up to the Temple Mount. Unfortunately, the Muslims right now have this access that you talked about, 24/7, that they're allowed to go in whenever they want. The Jews are in the category of tourists, and because of that, we're limited when we're allowed to go up and when we're not allowed to go up. Usually during the year, the access for Jews is twice a day. It's in the morning period, somewhere between 7:30 and about 10:30 in the morning. And then it's in the afternoon between 12:30 and 1:30 if it's wintertime, or 1:30 and 2:30 if it's the summertime. Now, unfortunately, because of the Muslim holiday, the afternoon session was cut off from everybody, all visitors, and we only had the morning session. In spite of that, hundreds and hundreds of people in that short window that was there went up to the Temple Mount during the holiday, which was really something, it opened up the heart, because you see every day, hundreds, 700, 800. The day that I went up with my son, there was 1,500 Jews that went up to the Temple Mount. So overall, the entire holiday, there was some 5,000 Jews that went up in a very short period, short window that people didn't have the opportunity to go. But I think that the Bennett government really helped the cause, because when they said that they're closing the Temple Mount to Jews, to Jewish visitors, a lot of people wanted to to show, no, this can't be happening. And they wanted to demonstrate on Dafka to go up to the Temple Mount and not allow it to be fall into the hands of the Muslim clergy over there. That's the absurdity of the entire thing. The pressure on the government was great. They were calling the government they were calling Bennett from all the Arab countries, telling him, what's going on in the riots. And really, it's so absurd, the whole situation, because they're the ones who riot. They're the ones who riot, and they reap the benefits from their evil deeds. Instead of going up and putting down the riots, taking care of the bully, we do the opposite. We give in to them. And we shut what's the easiest thing to do? Shut the gates for the Jews. So don't allow the Jews up there, and we appease the Arabs this way, and then everything we hopefully will once again put everything under the rug. Put all your troubles under the rug until once again it erupts. Outside again. As I said at the beginning, and I think this is so important. It's not just the Al-Quds Day. It's any day that the Arabs feel Jewish weakness, they will come against us to fight against us and to try to take away our land. Every day that happens over here. So it's not just once a year that we have to worry about, but this is something that continues to go on. Whenever they feel that they have the upper hand, they will come and try to use it against us.
Absolutely. Well put. That was amazing. That was great. And we're going to work for that. That's what we have to do. That's the challenge. That's
yes. We who live here. We got to roll up our sleeves and continue going, continue fighting, continue talking, and hopefully, God willing, one day we'll reach the goal.
Absolutely. Is Rabbi Yehuda Glick with us on
with one point?
Go ahead. Sure. Yes.
I just want to conclude with one point, Mayor. I think that one of the things when I was up on the Temple Mount and I saw was that if you look back, if you would say 200 years ago, I would be in Yerushalayim. There'd be a state in Israel, a Jewish state, and the Jews have returned, and there's 6 million Jews living in Eretz Israel. The person would say, you're out of your mind. You're crazy. That's not reality. Today it's true. Today it's here. And the same thing when I stood on the Temple Mount and I looked at the Golden Dome and I said, you know what? There's going to be the third Beis Hamikdash here. How it's going to come about, you can look at it and say, you're crazy. How could that possibly be? But let me tell you, whenever it will be, a few years down the road, that Beis Hamikdash, that third temple will be there in that spot. That's for sure.
I mean, absolutely. And it's incredible, the era that we're in.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Is Rabbi Yehuda Glick, did he sign in? Did he, is he online? There's Rabbi Yehuda Glick. Great. Thank you, Levi. We're going to get Rabbi Yehuda Glick to join us. Rabbi Yehuda Glick, former member of Knesset, early day advocate for Jews to go up to Har Bayit. You survived a terrorist attack. You have an incredible history and attachment with Israel, and you're a visionary for the Jewish people. It's a pleasure to have you on. If you could speak to us, speak to the people who are watching, who are going to share this, and give us the truth and inspiration. Oh, there's a volume problem.
There is no sound, Rabbi Yehuda Glick, coming from your end, so perhaps you can up the volume or shut off the mute. It's okay on our side here. Up. Well, Mayor, why don't you kind of keep chatting while Rabbi Yehuda Glick works on the sound?
Well, Rabbi Yehuda Glick has a history of being very involved in like I said in the introduction for him, he survived a terrorist attack as well. It's unbelievable. Gave his whole life, just like, there's a lot of good Jews in Israel. Many have a story to tell. But Rabbi Yehuda Glick has been, for many years, also in the forefront to bring attention to Har Bayit. Gotta make sure
In the
that
meantime,
my connection.
I guess we could bring Akiva back on for a little bit while Rabbi Yehuda Glick is working on his sound.
Okay.
Okay. There you go.
Hi. So,
Akiva, take it away.
okay, so I already, in the previous time you hosted me, I already introduced like the what we in Biyadenu do and work to help to increase the numbers of people that go up to the Temple Mount. I think Levi said he said like so much about it, like all about the Temple Mount now and everything that's happening right now with the Temple Mount being closed for Jews. I was listening. I would be happy to listen to everybody else talking, and like if you want to let me Baruch or Rabbi Yuda to talk, you're invited. Just let them talk.
Akiva, tell us some of the programs that you're organizing with your organization for the Temple Mount.
So actually, I can tell you what we're planning tomorrow. We're planning just as last year. We're gonna we're gonna sit at the entrance of the Temple Mount and protest the entrance, like Daven Mincha, and sit there and like just sit there and work in the entrance of the Temple Mount and saying Temple Mount needs to be open for Jews now, and we need to stop surrendering to terror and surrendering to what the Muslims want us to do, and to close the Temple Mount for Jews. So we're gonna be there tomorrow, and also other days. We're gonna every time we're gonna advertise before, like a day before, and say we're gonna come tomorrow. And we hope that it won't take too long, and we won't need to protest in the entrance and go back to the Temple Mount. And meanwhile, we're always talking with, like, going to schools and other places in Israel and talking to people and teaching them about the Temple Mount, together with the CEO Tom Nisani. That's the stuff we're doing like right now.
13% battery.
13 left? We've already been an hour exactly.
Any way that you could, we still got people to go. Will your phone chargeless?
You have another USB?
I thought your USB going into your phone, and I'm not sure if it would be okay.
But if you had another USB,
I mean, my phone has charge.
yeah, maybe.
Okay.
I'll put this in. It might get some of the juice from
Okay, I'm working on charge right now on this, so let's hopefully something just worked that I'm getting a boost. If Baruch and Rabbi Yehuda Glick could chime in also, that would be excellent. Any order.
Rabbi, why don't you say something so we can see if your sound is on presently?
Now I got 11.
Well, while we're waiting on that, Baruch, say a word. There you are.
You hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
First of all, I like to say something very interesting is that until You invited me on for Al Quds Day. I never even heard of it. In Israel, it's not even heard of. It's something that apparently is very big abroad. It's from what I saw from the opening video, but it's not a very big thing here in Israel. Maybe it's like Levi said, every day for the Arabs is Al Quds Day, and I like to tell a very short story so people can understand the Arab psyche and what Al-Aqsa means to them. Okay, I don't know why I'm being blocked here, but how do I get rid of this? So
Yeah.
and
It's not charging.
about 7-8 years ago, a girl who lived in Tekoa, the settlement Tekoa in Gush Etzion, named Dalia Lampkis, was on her way home from work in the Kiryat Gat to Tekoa. When she got to Gush Etzion, she was waiting for a bus, and some Arab stops his car right by the bus stop, gets out of his car, and stabs her to death. Being a lawyer, trying to help the family in the to be with them at the hearings in the military court where the terrorist was being judged, was being tried for the murder. So interestingly enough, this Arab that murdered her was from a very wealthy family. He had a good job, he had a family, he had kids, he had a car, he had a house. He didn't fit any of the criteria that they, the standards that they use to say that somebody is a potential terrorist. And at the hearing, he said that when the judges asked him if he has anything to say for himself, he got up and said the following statement. He said, "I was on my way home from work. I heard on the radio that the Jews are storming Al-Aqsa Mosque. And what could I do? I had to kill the first Jew I saw." So he got out of his car, stopped his car, got out and stabbed Dalia to death. He also wounded 2 other Jews who tried to stop him. But I think that's really taking this case into account. That really explains the Arab connection to Al-Aqsa Mosque. They are willing to kill and die for it. Are the Jews willing to kill and die for the Temple Mount? Well, I can't, to be honest with you, maybe back in '67, we were willing to kill and die for it in the 6-Day War. But since then, it would seem like we want to do everything possible to hand it back over to the Arabs and have nothing to do with it. For the Jews, it's a, what do you call it, an albatross? What's the word? It's, I think the Israelis and the Jews cursed the day that we freed the Temple Mount, liberated the Temple Mount. And that's a serious problem. It says a lot about our people. The Temple Mount, the house of Hashem, the house of God, that housed the 2 temples, the first temple, the second temple, and according to our beliefs, will host the 3rd temple. And yet, we willingly hand it over to the enemy and show very little, if any, interest in it, and very little self-sacrifice for it. So that's our problem. So if the Arabs have an Al-Aqsa Day, Al-Quds Day, and Al-Aqsa Day every day, and we have maybe once a year, Tisha B'Av, where people cry for the Mikdash that they, I don't really know what they cry for, because it doesn't seem like they really miss it. Because if they really missed it, then they would do something about it the rest of the year. But so we have a big problem with our people. The exile is embedded in our souls, and we act like we're a bunch of Galut Jews, as they say, and don't act like we really own the land. That it's our land, it's God's land, and the holiest place in the world. We allow the enemy, the haters of Hashem, the haters of God, the haters of the Jews, to run the place, rule the place. And we saw just this past week, the The Arabs had no problem throwing rocks, getting arrested, rioting, and they will also be willing to get killed for it. So there's a lot that we have to do a lot of what do you call it? self examination of our being as Jews, to try to understand where we went wrong and why 55 years now after the redemption, the liberation of the Temple Mount, we are not very much closer to rebuilding the temple and renewing the sacrifices than we were 55 years ago. Maybe, yes, we've made some small progress, very small progress in getting there, but we're still very far away, and it's very unfortunate, and we need to really examine where we've gone wrong.
Well, like Levi Hazan was saying, also the progress that's being made. You look back in the 80s and in the 70s, I mean, hardly any were going up. So thank God there is a momentum. Thank God that you're working with people. You're bringing people up for. You're consistently going up there, working on different programs, and that we do see some positive change. But obviously, there's a lot more to be done.
Mayor, let me say one thing. Mayor, I like to say one thing. Yes, more people are going up, but to be honest with you, 32 years ago, I started going up on a very steady basis after the Rabbi Americano was murdered, and 32 years ago, I could go up to the Temple Mount by myself, walk anywhere I wanted on the Temple Mount, and actually nobody really bothered me that much. And I could, and today I can't really go anywhere except where they tell you to go. You have to go with a group. You have to go where they tell you to go. And although they may look aside when we pray silently, very quietly, but still. The fact of the matter is that I have to wait for a group. I have to be part of a group. I have to go where they tell me. I can't go where I want to go. So, all said and done, we may have made progress as far as the amount of people willing to go up. But to be honest with you, it was at a very big price. A very big price. So
right.
I don't know what to tell you. It's like I said. Some people see the half full cup, and I see the half empty cup. There's a lot of very serious problems with our connection to the Temple Mount, and I'll be honest with you. People that don't go up there, they look at it as being like it's some other dimension. It's outer space, not even part of the earth. They don't even they have no idea. They can't even fathom what goes on up there. The only thing that they know is they see sometimes some pictures on the news or in the newspaper. Sometimes I really I have to pinch myself to try to understand the insanity of the Jewish people to think that it's all right for Arabs to go up there. It's all right for tourists from Germany and the Ukraine and Russia to go up there. Or Korea and China, but the Jewish people can't go up there. I mean, it's just absolute insanity.
Right.
And they come
right.
up with they have this whole fake thing about, well, we're going to be. Can you believe this?
That's what they.
It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. If there was any real true Jewish leader, in the government, how would he stand for such insanity?
Right. 100% correct. Let's bring Rabbi Yehuda Glick to join us also. Baruch, don't go anywhere. Rabbi Yehuda Glick, are you there?
I think he was unable to get the sound going, so it appears that he's not on. But if he's watching, hopefully he'll click back on and we'll put him on the screen.
Okay, so Baruch, let's bring Baruch back. He's more to say.
I'm here. You know, back in I don't know how many years ago it was already, but there was the Moledet Party, run by the assassinated, murdered Minister of Tourism, Rechavam Zevi, the General Rechavam Zevi, who was a great Jew, had the Moledet Party that ran under the camp the idea of transferring the Arabs out of Israel. Somewhat like the idea of Rabbi Kahana, maybe a little different, but still an important message of transfer. And he had in his party, at one point, he had 3 seats in the Knesset. One of the Knesset members was Dr. Shaul, his name escapes me, but I got him to come up to the Temple Mount with us. And he was very excited about the opportunity, and he decided that he wants to try to present a law connected to the situation on Temple Mount, table a law in the Knesset that would deal with the security of the Temple Mount, the way it's maintained, the way it's run, etc., etc. It was actually a very nationalistic law, not religious minded, but nationalistic, and it didn't even get past the committee. It didn't even get past a committee. It never got even to a vote inside the Knesset itself. So it's something that there's no hope that inside the Knesset it will ever be a change of the situation on Har HaBayit. The government, nor the Knesset, nor the court. It is totally in the hands of the people. If the people don't do something, it's never going to change. Or in God's hand, in some cataclysm, you know, like an atomic attack from Iran, that's also a possibility. But that's where it stands. It's either up to the Jewish people, grassroots uprising, or an attack by an enemy like the Iranians. But absolutely no hope from the Knesset, no hope from the government, no hope from the courts, and you know, the police would rather us not go up there because it's just a headache for them. And that's where we stand. It should be stated that Rabbi Meir Kahana, one of his main, he lists five criteria for redeeming the Jewish people. And one of the main criteria is the redemption of the Temple Mount. He said there's no redemption of the Jewish people without redemption of the Temple Mount. It's just not going to happen. So, I mean, we might be in the process of redemption, but we're not going to get there as long as the Temple Mount remains in their hands. And you know, they only get more bolder and bolder. They don't. They have no qualms about rioting and throwing rocks, and they've been shooting also. I mean, let's face it, policemen were killed on the Temple Mount by Arab shooting, and outside the Temple Mount and by the gates, they've killed people. They've wounded policemen. Like I said, they have no qualms about killing and getting killed. So you know, I very often try to think of how we can get out of this rut that we're in, and it just seems like there's no point of where I can see some kind of major authority, rabbinical authority, or somebody that will tell people, okay, now it's time We have to go up there. We have to stop going to the Western Wall, the Kotel. That time is finished. It's over. We have to go up to the Temple Mount. Can you imagine thousands of Jews knocking on the door every day, all day long, waiting to go up to the Temple Mount? That would be a statement. That would mean something. Other than that, it's a non-starter.
I can't hear anything right now. I don't know if anyone can hear me.
I hear you. Mayor.
Mayor, we can hear you loud and
No.
clear, so talk away. Even if you can't hear us, your voice is fine.
Okay, well, can anyone hear me?
We
Yes.
hear you.
Yes.
Okay, well, I can't hear anything, but I got the signal that you could hear me. I didn't hear the last part of what Baruch had to say, but I know Baruch so well, so I pretty much stand with what he says. He speaks the truth. Definitely, it's a frustrating situation. And like I said in the introductory comments earlier, when we began this online event, is that the government of Israel, the Bennett coalition government, issued a statement Saturday night that they're forbidding Jews to go on Har Bayit indefinitely. And the Minister of Diaspora Affairs reiterated that today. It doesn't want Jews at all going up to the Temple Mount, in spite of Hamas supporters going up there, BDS supporters going up there, waving Hamas flags and calling for the murder of Jews. And he doesn't say anything about that. More to the point, that the rabbinical establishment here in Israel, they also said they don't want Jews going up there, but they haven't said a word about the blatant anti-Semitic incitement, calling for murder. It's not just incitement. I mean, it's actually calling for the physical murder of Jews. And what they do, there have been, since I arrived here in Israel, in the past 4 weeks, there have been 4 separate major terrorist attacks in Israel, where Jews have been murdered by supporters of BDS/Hamas. That's a serious network that's out there. In fact, major Islamic organizations worldwide endorse them. And so we can't just try to appease anti-Semitism. It must be confronted, it must be diffused, whatever ways necessary. Israel is an extremely successful country.
Well, Mary, we lost you. So Baruch, you want to make some comments while Mary's trying to get back some sound?
Yeah.
In every single, I hope
Oh, he's
everybody
back.
heard what I had to say. I don't know.
Maybe say it again. You cut out for a minute. But well, while we're taking a break for a second, I think a lot of people have this misconception.
Is Rabbi Yehuda Glick with us? Was he able to log on, or he had a complication logging on? We couldn't hear him earlier.
Yeah, no, I think he just gave up. He couldn't get the sound. While we're taking a break and regrouping, I thought I'd just make the comment that a lot of people get this misconception, particularly in the West, that it's Hamas, it's Hezbollah. Well, this is the Palestinian Authority school. I thought I'd play a quick little momentary video. This is what they're learning in school. Okay, what we have here are 4 Palestinian children at school in the Palestinian Authority dressed as Jews with yarmulkes, and I see at the end they even scream Ima. And then this is what they're taught in
what
school.
I'm going to do right now, just for a moment, is I'm going to log off and log right back.
So again, this is some Palestinian school children playing a game called Terrorist Attack on the Jews. So how, a lot of people say, well, it's just let's educate the youth. How can we educate these children when this is what they're taught in school? So Baruch, commentary?
No, that shouldn't surprise us, what you just showed us. I mean, look, let's face it. The Netanyahu's government was just as bad, if not worse, than Bennett's government. I mean, He's the one who went out and made these so-called Abraham treaties with Arab states. Let's face it. Every time they make another treaty with another Arab state, it comes at a cost. I mean, he may think, well, it's great. Now we're making a coalition against the Iranians, and it's going to help the economy. But I mean, let's face it. Now, watching what happened over the past week with the riots on the Temple Mount, it was clear that the Bennett government's going to capitulate to the pressure brought down upon the government by the Arab states that are part of the Abraham treaties. So you saw the Arab Emirates, you saw the Jordanians, you see all of these Arab states that now have relations with Israel, and they're all pressuring Israel about the Temple Mount. And it should come as a surprise to us. There should be absolutely no relations with the state of Israel and any Arab state. Bottom line, because it all comes at a cost. Whether it's a cost of giving away land, holy land that belongs to the Jewish people, the land of Israel, or the cost of banning Jews from the Temple Mount, not allowing us to serve Hashem from the Temple Mount, and in the end result is it's all going to come back to haunt us. All of these agreements, and even the agreement with Egypt, that people say, oh, you see, for the past 40 some odd years we have peace. No, well, history is a little bit longer than 40 years, and it's longer than 80 years, and bottom line is nothing good is ever going to come out of any agreement made with any of these Arab states, and we'll see that happen. I mean, at some point in time, I mean, we saw it happen here with the Temple Mount, and it's only going to get worse. We have to be, as Rabbi Kahana taught us, we have to be alone. The Jewish people have to be alone, have no friends, no treaties with foreign countries, and if we stand alone and trust in God, trust in Hashem, just as we saw He redeemed us from Egypt when we were just a nation of slaves, and He'll redeem us from the evil countries that rule the world today. And it's just very unfortunate that we don't have this faith and trust in Hashem. Not even the religious people, not even the rabbis. How many people are willing to say today, "Let us stand alone and trust in Hashem"? Rabbi Kahana used to go around. I used to go around with him, and he'd speak in religious groups, synagogues, Orthodox synagogues, and invariably somebody would always say, "Rabbi Kahana, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but in the end, the president of America won't let you do what you want." And he would say to them, "Well, who's stronger, the president of America or God?" People would laugh. "What do you mean? What kind of stupid question is that? Of course God's stronger." So if God's stronger, he would say, then who cares what the president of America has to say? And that's the bottom line. Is there any prime minister of Israel that would stand up and tell the president of America to, jump in a lake? I don't see it happening. But that's what's needed. What's needed is a prime minister that will say, "Go jump in the lake. We're going to do what we have to do. What our destiny is, our redemption." I mean, here's a picture of one of the greatest disappointments in Jewish history, Menachem Begin. Menachem Begin, who is the head of the Etzel, the Irgun Tzvai Leumi, that threw the British out of Israel. He ended up being the worst prime minister that we ever had, capitulating to pressure from America, giving away the land of Israel, giving the Arabs the hope that one day they will take over here, and you know what? The picture that we see right now, which makes the Israeli government look like they're an Arab government, but the man that's really at fault for all of this is Menachem Begin. He brought it all upon us. He was the biggest traitor, one of the biggest traitors in Jewish history, and it's just very unfortunate. Because I was here in 1977 when he took over, and the Arabs were shaking in their boots. They thought that any moment they're going to be tossed out of here. And then Begin just capitulated, folded on all fronts, and this is where we stand today.
Okay.
In fact, if we're talking about Begin and Temple Mount, it should be known that one of the people that was very active in the Cherut party at the time, which Begin was the head of the Cherut party, which became the Likud later, was Gershon Solomon, the man who created the Temple Mount Faithful, one of the original leaders of the Temple Mount movement. And Gershon Solomon had a promise from Begin that he would allow Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount. And when Begin came to power, one of the first things he did is he called upon Moshe Dayan, the man who almost caused the destruction of Israel in the Yom Kippur War, and he called him to become the foreign minister of Israel. And Dayan had a few conditions, and one of the conditions was no prayer on the Temple Mount, no Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount. And Begin capitulated and prevented the Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount. Gershon Solomon is a witness to this. He told us this is what happened. He was promised, and Begin backed out of his promise and caved into Dayan's pressure. Dayan, the same Dayan who gave the keys to the Temple Mount back to the Islamic Waqf, the Islamic Trust, and Begin rewarded him by making him foreign minister of Israel. So it should be no surprise then what ultimately happened. The agreement made with Egypt, the power given, the hope given to the Arabs in Judea and Samaria that they would get at some point the state, and the destruction of settlements and towns like Yamit and Ophira. This is all Begin did that, and gave away the entire Sinai Peninsula, which is a very important strategic piece of land that belonged to us. So there's really, I don't see any possibility of any kind of redemption through governments and Knessets that just sell us out, sell out the people, sell out the land, have no faith in God. There has to be some alternative. And unfortunately, the rabbis can't, get it together to be the alternative.
Okay, well, look, it's been almost 2,000 years since Jews have been back here. And there's about 7 million Jews in Israel right now. It's the future for the Jewish people. There's a wind blowing in Israel of many Jews coming back to back to Torah. And, we have to be optimistic. We wouldn't be here if we weren't optimistic. Obviously, there's challenges. Obviously, we've had disappointments from leaders that we thought we wouldn't have disappointments in. But when the world major Islamic organizations, BDS, Hamas support groups are throughout the world calling for our murder, saying that it belongs to them, and then they reiterate that by having a manifestation on Har Bayit where they're showing Hamas flags and death to Jews and all that. We have to speak up, and we can't stay silent, and we have to encourage more and more Jews to go up. And that's what we want to do, especially today when Al-Quds Day starts. We don't back down from anti-Semitism. We speak the truth, whatever the cost. We've gone about an hour and a half, and the battery level anyways on my system is going down. Already it went down on a laptop. But I want to thank you, Baruch. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. That's it. The challenge, again, like I said, what is Israel? Is it an Israeli state, something that you can't even really define, or is it a Jewish state? We want a Jewish state, and that's what brings Jews to Israel, and that's the worthwhile cause for Jews to fight for a Jewish state. I don't know if there's a song that we're gonna end with, but it's a pleasure to do this. It's moving to do this from the. I'm at the Kotel, and above me is the Temple Mount, and that's really where we should be doing go from. That Jews should have unrestricted access to the Temple Mount to go up. And shame on those rabbis that issue those statements to try to dull the sense of pride and vision of Jews to go up there and really reclaim our heritage and that which is holy to us. It's amazing. Yaakov, one of our forefathers, when he slept and he had the dreams, and he lay down and he saw ladders and angels ascending and descending, and when he woke up he said, wow, I can't believe it. This place is holy. This is the gateway to heaven. And that's what it is. And that's how Jews should look at it. The Jews shouldn't feel embarrassed or intimidated by the anti-Semites. We survived the Holocaust. We survived such a history. We have to stand up. We have to look at ourselves in the mirror and never, ever feel intimidated. Never feel that we have to put our Jewish identity in some kind of a briefcase. We have to be proud. Thank you very much.
I'll play a song again. I'm going to play two songs. I always like to end with one version or another of Hatikva, which I think is appropriate. But before that, I think that, as you all have kind of verbalized so clearly, is that the way to conquer our enemies is by not denying who we are and what we are. And I think that's the problem, certainly in America, with progressive Judaism today. So here's a group of young men who do an a cappella version. Before we do Hatikva, we'll play them. And basically, this is the concept of Aliyah. And then after this, I'll play Hatikva, then we'll close out.
Left it all to be with you. Distant dreams have now come true. Walk the streets of legends told. We've come home. We've come home. We've come home. And we'll never stand alone. After 2,000 years, we are home. Not a native of this land. Bring me up and take my hand. Sapphire seas and golden sand, a place called home. We've come home, we've come home to a land of our own. After 2,000 years, we are home. ארצי מולדתי, על אדמתי צעדתי, עברי עתידי, זה ביתי. We've come home, we've come home, and we'll never stand alone. After 2,000 years, we are home. We've come home to a
So Mayor, can you comment before I put on Hatikva?
Absolutely.
And so right before it comes on, I'd like to close out and thank everybody, all of our guests, all of our listeners. And remember, BDS, support BDS with everything you have. Buy Israeli products, donate to Israeli charities, and support the state of Israel. And that's our BDS. And we'll see you all next week.
כל עוד בלבב בנימה נפש יהודי הומייה ולפתן מזרח קדימה עין לציון צופיה עוד לא אבדה תקוותנו, התקווה בשנות 2000, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים.
Shalom Aleichem.